It's unreal. Like, we're seeing so many things that we still see in music videos today.
Hi everyone, welcome back. So today I chose a video that is near and dear to my heart. And I actually think that this video may have started my love for music videos. I saw it for the first time when I was 8 or 9 years old. This came out in 1998. And we are talking about Madonna's Frozen. So I always loved this really melancholic style, and it was like really dark, and it was so different from anything else that I'd seen from Madonna that at that point. I loved it. And it was the darkness of it. And at that point I had already started to get into horror a little bit as well. Like I was reading horror kids books, that kind of thing. And yeah, this was just so different to me. Like it wasn't like any of the other more mainstream things that came on TV at the time, like for music videos. Anyway, before I get into the weeds too much, let me introduce myself. If you're new here, my name is Manon. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a writer director. I've done a couple of short films. I have been working on my first feature for some time now. And while the film industry is a mess, I'm currently making these videos on my YouTube channel just to engage with people out in the world and to talk about my two favorite things, which is music and filmmaking. So that's what I do here. I kind of look at music videos more from the visual side of things rather than really music and lyrics and that kind of thing. And there's already a million channels out there that do that side of things. So if that's what you're looking for, go there. We talk about visuals here. So that aside, about Frozen. So it was directed by Chris Cunningham, who I found out later also directed videos by Aphex Twin, Björk, as well as some other less mainstream than Madonna artists and acts. And all of those videos were amazing too. So there was some time in my, early to mid teens that I was really into his videos and those musicians. And so that's why I wanted to look back on Frozen specifically because it really struck a chord with me and really, I think, made me love music videos as much as I do. So without further ado, let's take a look at Madonna's Frozen and let's see if it's held up because and I hate to say it, it's already over 25 years old, guys.
You only see what your eyes want to see. How can life be what you want it to be? You're frozen when your heart's not open. You're so consumed with how much you get. You waste your time with hate and regret. You're broken when your heart's not open. If I could melt your heart, we'd never be apart. Give yourself to me.
It's unreal. Like, we're seeing so many things that we still see in music videos today. So this beautiful landscape, and I so vividly remember seeing this for the first time, being like, wow, this must be in outer space somewhere. Because I was like, there's just, this doesn't look real. Like where I grew up, which is the Netherlands, we don't have deserts, we don't have these, because this was shot in Death Valley, right? So, or near to it here in California, where I live now, ironically. I was just blown away by this landscape. And so we have Madonna here in the opening, like this witchy figure that's just, who's just hanging there in nothingness, right? Like she's just floating. And it still looks so good. And I have no idea how they did special effects like this at the time. Like I know how to do this with modern tools and the modern like editing suites that we have and the green screen stuff and all of that. This this was 1998. So also like we have the 4/3 aspect ratio here, and here it's non-ironic. It's not a throwback. This is like this is what TVs were like back in at that time. So I talk about this sometimes where musicians that are making music videos now are choosing to do a 4/3. And this is where you can see that this is what that looks like on our now, widescreen screen. Then we get closer and closer to her. And actually, now that I pause it here, I feel like it does look very pasted on. So my guess would be, and this is, if this was shot on real film, which again, they did already shoot on digital as well, except it was different at the time. I'm a little out of my depth. I don't know how they shot videos in that time between where they were, um, slowly moving from film, actual celluloid film, to digital. But this is really interesting looking. It does look pasted on a little bit, and it's possible. Even the shadow looks a little bit artificial in a way. But that makes it all the more weird and ethereal looking, right? And then we get to the close up. We have this beautiful shade of blue that is just all over this video. There is no change in this color whatsoever. So it almost looks like it was shot at night, except it wasn't, for as far as I know. It's just very pale, very cool, very fitting with the tone and the vibe of the song. I love her costume here too, by the way. And it was so different from what her thing was at the time, which it was on the Ray of Light album. And if you'll remember, the rest of the album really wasn't so much like this. It really stood out. So it was such a fascinating choice, really, for them to make it so tonally different. But the song was totally different as well. So it fits, I guess. We have this beautiful piece of like black cloth that I'm assuming that the way that they did this was like with a wind machine and they pulled it with a piece of string or fishing wire, right? So again, very sort of creepy, weird looking. And that's actually kind of what Chris Cunningham was a little bit known for, is that he did these really unusual, weird looking videos, which are fantastic. And then the moment that she falls and just explodes into these birds, at the time, they were using real birds still more so than digital birds, the way that we're used to now. Usually, they will avoid using real animals just for like animal welfare, as well as, especially if you're shooting in the United States, you will need animal wranglers on set, who manage these animals. And so I am guessing that these were, I'm fairly sure, to be honest, that these were real birds that they were still using then. So you can only imagine how many times they had to shoot this to make it look exactly right. And it's such an incredibly cool effect. And then this spectacular moment when there's 3 versions of Madonna appearing. It's so cool. And for as far as I'm aware, they had a number of body doubles there. So nowadays we would kind of shoot it 3 times and cut it, sort of splice it in our editing software. I'm fairly sure that they were quite creative with their body doubles there. So let's look at that moment again where we see the 3 and see if we see her face more than once.
Your heart. We'd never be apart.
As you can see, like we only ever see her face, even when she turns around and walks away and she appears into the right of the screen. That is really smart camera work and also editing. So it looks like it's the same person and that it was just shot that way, but I'm fairly sure that they had these body doubles and they shot it twice, one time with her appearing from the right and walking away, and then they switched them around. Again, nowadays we'd probably do that more so in post and we just work with the one person. Like a lot of these things have become more post VFX focused, and that's the cool thing, that when you don't have those resources like they did back in the day, obviously, they would just do that sort of thing practically. But we still see this type of effect where we see the same people in one screen multiple times in videos, even to this day. So it's really cool. And I think that Chris Cunningham, especially with his like vision in these videos, especially also if you look at the All Is Love video for Björk, where she appears as like this white robot, was just really visionary and inspired a lot of stuff that came after that.
Give yourself to me. You are the key.
There goes my theory. We do see the 3 faces. We'll have to see the BTS and see how they accomplish this, because it's so interesting to see this being done when there wasn't as much editing, VFX available at the time. Also, Cunningham went on to actually do a lot of VFX on bigger productions. He hasn't. I just looked him up to see what he's been up to in like recent years, and I couldn't really find anything since like the mid 2010s. So I wonder what he's up to, or if he's maybe sort of exited the film industry. But it's I mean, it's a tough industry on anyone, to be honest. So I wouldn't be surprised, just realistically. But yeah, it's this is so cool.
Now there's no point in placing the blame, and you should know I suffer the same. If I lose you, my heart will be broken. Love is a bird, she needs to fly. Let all the hurt inside of you die. You're frozen when your heart's not open. If I could melt your heart, we'd never
lot of things happening here that I'm now recognizing, like how important, how much we still see this stuff. So, for example, she is moving in slow motion. And we see this in a lot of modern videos still, where they will shoot something in a higher frame rate, and the speed difference here isn't that high, right? So I'm guessing they must have shot this at 60 frames per second and slowed it down to 30. And that means that on set, as she was lip syncing this, they played it at twice the speed so that her movement, like she's still lip syncing at the speed of the song when they slow it down. And it's really cool because as she's dancing with like the black fabric and stuff, it looks so flowy and everything's like flowing around her. And it's so sort of unreal, surrealist looking. And that really contributes to that. And then also something that, as I'm watching this and kind of thinking back also to what this felt like back in the day for me when I was little, something that always like transfixed me about this was her eyes and how much her face stands out in between like all this black cloth. It's so beautiful. And just in general, like these eyes, even though everything is deep, you know, desaturated except for the blue, her eyes still really, really stand out in all of this. It's just so pretty, so pretty. Look, like almost every one of these shots is like a painting. It's just stunning. And then, of course, this moment where this, by the way, is played in reverse. So that's why it also looks weird. Let's watch this bit again, shall we? Because we have this dancer who I don't think actually, by the way, is Madonna, because the face is completely obscured here, and probably this transition of the dog appearing will have cost a lot of time. So usually, again, they'll have like a body double or like another actor to play that part. So that pressure isn't put on the star, and obviously it's Madonna, so she had like a million other things to do, right? So you want to limit the amount of time that they're working. So let's look at this again, this beautiful transition, which is just insane.
Lose you, my heart will be broken. Love is a bird, she needs to.
And then it becomes clear that it's the dog. You only see its teeth. It's so black. Like in general, like all of the colors are really, really dark. Like the shadows, especially. Like even here, like you can't even see the wrinkles in the fabric. It's that dark. So it's just so cool. And I love this transition. And as you could see, like the footage was reversed. And again, that adds to that sort of surrealist, like unreal vibe. So cool. This shot too, so beautiful. And I know this was in the time that she was kind of into some other religions, and I don't remember exactly which, but actually her hands here are painted with henna, and it looks really fitting because it's actually one of the few bits of texture and like patterns that we're seeing. So it's again, it's kind of adding to that sort of witchy ritual sort of vibe. And again, like just pointing out, it's like we have this beautiful reflection in our eye that just makes it really pop. All right, and then the dog appears. So I'm pausing it again just because I wanted to point something out. It said everything is shot at very shallow depths of field. So we only see her. And if I'm remembering correctly, they had her still on a box to create more depth, to make sure that the distance was actually further away from her so that they didn't have to angle the camera upward. But she still looks like she's hovering, right? But we only see her, and everything in the background is hazy, and that's that really the depth of field that is set to be just her and nothing in the background. And we kind of see the same thing happening here on the dog as well. So the dog is out of focus, and then we see that the first AC And nowadays, at first AC is not with the camera. They're sort of standing as like at a little distance with their, wirelessly connected little device that allows them to turn the gears on the lens to pull focus. At the time, though, we didn't have that type of technology, so they were actually at the lens at the camera and they were turning the gears manually. So just imagine that you have this camera and they were turning the actual gears. And so on the lens, and we actually see that there is like this pull, and all of a sudden we're on this dog, and the dog is moving quite swiftly. So it's again like this must have taken a couple times even to get this focus pull correctly. So just take a look. And there he is. And you see that the first AC even pulled it a little bit too far because it's coming out of focus immediately. We just see this very brief moment where the dog becomes more clear and we see a little bit of color here, this little pop of green of the dog's eyes, and it's so pretty. But as you can see, like already the hairs here on his head are out of focus. So that means that they had this tiny, tiny depth of field that they could work in. And that's actually really hard to pull focus on something that is so close to the lens. And as you could see, it's like they were already out of focus, like a fraction of a second after that. Okay.
You only see what your eyes want to see. How can life be what you want it to be? You're frozen when your heart's not open. If I could melt your heart, we'd never be apart. Give yourself to me. If I could melt your heart, we'd never be apart. Give yourself to me. If I could melt your heart.
Wow. I mean, I'm just thinking back to how, I kept watching this music video. Whenever it would come on, I would be like with her, like, ooh. It was such a wonderful song, and I still love it so very much. I still think it's so creepy and weird, and the music video is just so great. Definitely also think that Madonna was probably one of my first girl crushes, for sure. So let's look back at some of the things that we see in this final part of the video, because there's definitely like a switch, right? In the music, like it becomes even darker, more intense, and then it's intensifying with this moment where everything turns even darker. Like they shot this way underlit, underexposed. I'm still fairly sure that a large part of this was not shot at night, but just the way that they shot it made it look like it was shot at night. Then we do have certain parts that look like they were actually shot at night because we get some parts where we see that she is being artificially lit, as in there's lights that are lighting her. So this part, honestly, I'm not sure if that's the sun or if that's the moon because it's so bright. We do see stars as well, so maybe, but I feel like they messed with the footage, if that makes sense. But again, like we have her floating in the sky here. It feels so ominous. It's so cool looking. We have her still doing her thing here. And then we get to this part, which is sort of like the finale of the song. We see this dark, sort of gooey stuff, which has a beautiful reflection from some lights here. It looks like it's blood, but it could also be this black goo. And it's moving backwards to her. So that's footage is reversed. And it's looking so cool because it looks like it's being absorbed into her. We have no idea what it is, and there's no explanation for it, except then all of a sudden there's three of her. Again, I do think that these three women are actually body doubles. They're dancers, and they're just doing the thing with her. And we see a little bit of their faces. I couldn't say exactly like, hey, these are different people because they do cast these people to look a lot like whoever it is that they're body doubling, right? So definitely look a lot alike. But it's such a beautiful ending and so unreal, and these beautiful shots of her back, which is such an interesting choice to shoot her from the back. So I wonder if maybe Chris Cunningham sort of saw her from the back at some point and saw her those muscles working and was like, "Ooh, that's an interesting shot. Let's get some of that," because it seems like that's not something you think about getting into that. So just a really beautiful movement of her hands and then this beautiful jewelry, which I don't know exactly what the significance is of that, but we see a couple of shots of that by the end. It's really cool. And there must have been this does actually feel like it was shot at night, and we have like a big light, a big like single light that's casting light onto them from up high because it's very soft and it sort of spills out onto the surroundings. So yeah, just just beautiful. Just a beautiful video. I still have many questions. Maybe we can find Chris Cunningham and talk about this video. I don't know where he's out at the moment, what he's up to, but man, that guy, he made some brilliant stuff. All right. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this. I sure did. This is such a cool throwback to one of my favorite videos of all time and like what sparked my film love. Let me know what you think about this video and if you remember seeing this when it came out. Come hang out with us on Discord. We have a wonderful little community over there where we talk about music videos, but music in general as well, and movies, games, etc. If you're enjoying my videos, you can also join me on Patreon, where you get early access as well as some exclusive access to other videos. Let's definitely hang out. Come hang out more often. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.